Hey, welcome back to another episode of A Warrior Spirit, where the inner warrior shines in their light. Today, I have the pleasure of having a good dear friend of mine, Kellie Zimmet. Kellie and I actually was her realtor and helped her sell her house, and she volunteered to bartend at my wedding, and we've just had a great relationship ever since. Kellie, I appreciate your time today, and thank you for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's interesting, our past relationship, kind of all different kind of aspects of life. So it should be an interesting conversation today, Daryl.
Yeah, we started off as business and became friends. And I've always admired, where you started because you were a coach or coaching at one point as well, and you've kind of moved in and out of that circle. So, um, where was your coaching started? Like what precipitated that?
Well, although that's my title now, I would say that I didn't have the title before that. Back when my background, my degree is in environmental science. So my first job out of college was actually as a health inspector. And
Oh,
so interestingly enough, I worked for SC Johnson. They make Glade, Windex, and Pledge, kind of a bigger family-owned company. And my job was to go around and teach people about how to keep their food safety areas, like a health inspector, basically, like
mhm.
food safety inspector. And so my job was to make sure that they did everything in accordance to all the regulations so that when the actual regulators came around, they were already clean and got straight A's and perfect scores. So I was kind of like a trainer and a coach then. And so really just trying to influence people and help them make choices and decisions and think deeper about the things that they just might be doing on a daily basis back then. So I was working with not only the people like in the deli departments and like the smaller departments, but also the leadership teams. And I would go to them and have them kind of think about the impact that their leadership is having on these different areas. And so they got scores. And so I had to have some tough conversations. And at a young age, right out of college, was watching grown men cry about, their scores and how to change things. And so I think I became an influencer kind of then and kind of started learning my coaching skills back then at that first role. So even though that wasn't the coach title necessarily, and then throughout my roles as an entrepreneur, I owned a couple companies. And so you're always coaching people. And as much as, again, it's not your title, you're still the owner. And so of course, I care, that's a kind of a piece of all this, right? When you
Yeah.
actually care about people, you learn how to coach them better and have kind of that empathy piece and give them some thoughts and ideas. I've always kind of considered myself a resource. I'm kind of the friend that people call and say, hey, do you have any ideas on this? Or how should I do this? And I have that like listening ear kind of personality and can kind of critically think about, oh, they're in this situation, maybe they should do this, this, and this. So um always helpful to do that for other people, not always great at my own life, right? Like that's how life works. So
Yeah.
I would say that's really like how it's been influenced over time before I actually got the title as coach and kind of earned that piece of things.
It's interesting because to me, because as you know, my degree is in psychology. So I sort of gravitate towards mindset coaching when I'm helping people, no matter what we're helping them with. It seems to always start with the mindset. And so it's interesting that even in a corporate environment like you were doing, everyone knows how to keep stuff clean and everyone knows that they should be safe about certain things, but you're still dealing with their mindset on implementation and, how, like you said, how their decisions impacts, their workers and their employees. Well, that's all mindset all the way down. So even in the corporate world, the mindset played a part. um, I know you have traveled the world, uh, oftentimes by yourself. You just grab a backpack and go. Um, were
There's a little bit
you?
more to planning than just grabbing the backpack and going. Let's be real. I'm kind of a planner a little bit. So okay, go ahead. Finish the question. Just
Yeah,
how
but
do you feel about it?
not all of us are going to still, even if we plan it, we're not going to do it by ourselves. But
Sure.
the question was, where did that start as a youngster? Because that's not something that typically we just snap on. Something in our childhood initiates that wonder for the world and that wanderlust. Where did yours start?
Yeah, I'm the oldest of three. My parents were amazing looking back over my childhood. My mom always, and us, my siblings, I've got a younger brother and younger sister. We always talk about how mom was always like, get out, do stuff. She always encouraged us to just do stuff and be independent. And she never like told us we couldn't do things or we were wrong. She just let us kind of like fail our way to like learn and experience the world. And so I was raised with that, but right out of like I guess in college, well, first of all, in high school, I told my parents I was going to school in Miami, Florida, and I'm an Ohio girl. So they were kind of at small town Ohio. They were like, no, you can't do that. I was like, I'm pretty much gonna do that. So that started, and of course they were supportive after they realized that my stubborn independentness was going to make it happen anyway. And so did that, went away to school, and then ended up back in Ohio to complete an environmental education program, and ended up doing an internship in Central America. Had friends that were part of the college that were from Costa Rica, and they set me up with this internship, set me up with families. So the internships there are really interesting. You design your own internship and then get it approved, or you could use their internships. And I want to design my own, of course. And so it was really a cool experience. So I got to go, and then I extended beyond the internship and backpacked for 6 weeks around Central America, and just, really learned a lot about humanity, learned a lot about myself, learned a lot about being alone. I mean, that's part of, I think, why I really love to travel, is just that check-in with myself. About, back then we didn't have these things to depend upon to keep our minds busy, so I learned a lot
Right.
about crossword puzzles and thinking and journaling, and just the things that I need to do to be a healthy human, and awareness of humans around me. I wasn't an expert in Spanish at that time. I became much better, of course, but really like listening to people and trying to figure out who you could trust and who not to trust. And I feel like that taught me at a young age how to travel, how to be aware. Of course, there's things that can happen that are bad in the world, but I just told myself then I never wanted to live in that bubble, right? I don't, yes, scary things can happen, but how do I do the best that I can to have some of these cool experiences? So really think since then, I always was open to traveling and doing stuff. Didn't really do any independent travels for quite a few years after that. And then all of a sudden found my life single after a couple relationships, and said, I need to go do a solo trip, and decided I wanted to go do that Camino de Santiago, the hike across Spain. Ended up getting back with the person that I was with, and he ended up doing the hike with me, which was really cool. And then from that point on, really decided that I needed to start doing yearly things by myself, something that really got me out of my comfort zone. The reason I like going with a backpack is because it teaches me and reminds me I don't need stuff in life. Yes, I need a
Mhm.
home, don't get me wrong. Like, and I love nice stuff and I love great things in life, but really I don't need, all the stuff. I don't need 10 avocado slicers and all these
Right.
kitchen appliances and beauty care products. When I
Yeah.
go, it's stripped down. You're wearing two outfits for the whole time because it's what you can carry. I cut the tags out of my clothes to save on weight. I am like really just getting real about what I need in life, and what that does is just resets my brain to go, okay, you need your feet, you need, roof over your head, you need to trust in humanity. I mean, that's
Yeah.
always a great reminder of traveling as a single female. And let's be real, there's a difference for men traveling. I had lots of conversations with men about the difference for females traveling solo and men traveling solo. There is a different approach and mindset. We're kind of, have to be aware. And again, I love alcohol and drinking and having wine in foreign countries, but you have to watch that. You have to watch, your
Mhm.
interactions with people and your stuff and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's just taught me a lot and helps me to reset that and do that. And I love traveling with girlfriends too. And typically if I travel with friends or guy friends or whatever, just traveling with friends, I try to incorporate time alone as well, like in there, like whether
Mhm.
that's, before or after the trip, or making sure that we've got alone time too. So it's taught a lot. It's been a lot of fun. People will say, how do you do that? I'm like, well, you just do it. Like you plan
Yeah, you
it,
just go.
exactly. And isn't that scary? Well,
Yeah.
not anymore. Yes, it was, but I think I was kind of young and naive when I first started it. So
Yeah.
it's easier as I got older and more aware of all the cruelties of the world, right? So I just try not to think about that, and it doesn't do me any good, and just be aware and smart about it. So
When I was younger, I used to just throw a dart at a map in the US and then just move wherever that was. And so I moved around every couple years just to see the world in the US. I didn't, not a world traveler yet, but my sister once asked me, aren't you afraid? And I'm like, why? People are people. If you treat them nice, they treat you nice back. Now, when you are traveling, especially as a female, you do have to be hyper vigilant of the world around you. You can't just go as a tourist and la 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 la, but it does teach you skills that are important in the rest of your life. Paying
right.
attention, detail matters. Body language says as much as words do. You're learning all those navigational communication skills that impact you as a business owner and help you actually be a business owner. I would imagine that your time abroad has even made you a better trainer and a better entrepreneur, right? You're picking up all those nuances. So, when you got done with
Your
your,
worldview, you realize like we are so kind of like in this Americanized view of humanity and the world. And so just even getting out of that box
Mhm.
reminds me of different cultures and religions and things that I'm not exposed to every day. And it reminds me how to be a better human. And so that I think helps me in the business environment as well, right? Better understanding, more compassion,
Yeah.
right? You don't know someone till you've walked in their shoes, right? And so I try to really ask a lot of questions and understand and enjoy the experience of learning while I travel.
Well, we also learn, I mean, I've been to a few foreign countries, but not as a traveler like you, but it does teach us, if you're paying attention, how fortunate we really are here and how little you really need to act. I love seeing in when I've traveled in my places that I've traveled, I love seeing the joy on the children's face, even though I know they don't have a lot. They don't know they don't have a lot, and they just bring the joy, to their situation and their environment. And then that you take a step back and you think, okay, you can be happy without, as you said, the four avocado slicers and the, stuff. You really can find joy in just living life to its fullest.
Yeah, I was in Morocco last December, and huge financial discrepancies between how I live and most Americans live to these small villages that we went through. And it blew my mind, right? But it was also a great reminder. One of our guides, who was a mountain guide and also helped with cooking, and just this old man, okay, that's the best way to describe him. We found out he wasn't as old as he looked, because of the life that he's lived. But he welcomed us into his home, and he introduced us to his wife. She was cooking on dirt floors,
Mhm.
happily made me tea, and couldn't wait. I mean, they had a gift for me and like chocolate, like all this stuff that they were living so simply. They were the cutest, happiest couple. And so they were so cute. I was like, so what's the secret to your happy marriage? And they couldn't wait to tell me how they met and their story. And they had 5 kids and like their life. And it was the perfect life to them. And they were so happy and joyful and happy to share it with me, and happy to give me whatever. It just warmed my spirit and warmed my heart to be reminded that, again, all that stuff that we don't need, and it is about finding acceptance, joy in what we do have. But also, when I come home, it's that balance of, yes, I still want more, right?
Mhm.
Let's
Right.
be real. Like, I do come home and I'm like, okay, yes, I'm going to want a new car at some point. Yes, I
Mhm.
am going to want that stuff. So where's that balance out between the nice things in life that I do want and striving for those and being happy, versus having that simplicity? And I think that's where the trips kind of keep me in balance, if you will.
When you came back from your initial student exchange, thing, where did you land when you got back and out of college?
I was in Ohio at that point in time, and um, gosh, let me try to think. That's like so much to think back towards. Yeah, I was in Ohio at that point in time. Ended up living with my sister for a short period of time, ended up falling in love after that, moving to Kansas City. So I think I've just always kind of been open-minded in my life as well. And so I don't know that the impact hit me as hard as I wish that it would have. But I think it's always had kind of that ribbon in my life as far as needing to remind myself of that. But we do get off track. That's why I think like that yearly kind of check back in is an important part of it.
So what got you from the Midwest to Arizona? Because
Mm,
that's a huge leap.
like most things in life, love, right?
Uh,
So I actually went through a breakup. So kind of opposite of love. I went through a breakup and I always said I was going to live here. I had traveled to Carefree, Arizona for work and used to come out to Arizona typically monthly for that SC Johnson job. And I always thought someday when I grow up, I'm going to live in Carefree, Arizona, just because it sounds really cool. And I love the town and it's beautiful. And although I actually have never lived in Carefree since moving here in 2013, I've lived down there and it's just as amazing and wonderful. So, went through a breakup. We ended up getting back together, which is also interesting. But I have not regretted moving out here. I love Arizona. I feel like it's such a healthy place. I feel like I can stay young here longer. When you go to workout classes at the gym and there's 70-year-olds teaching your class that you can't even keep up with, and there's people cycling by you when you're running, that are double your age, you're like, dang, so I feel like the environment here is a little healthier than in the Midwest. Could be because of the weather. There's lots of different
mhm.
kind of a melting pot of lots of different people, but I absolutely love it. So don't regret the move here. I won't leave. I built a new house here and absolutely love living out in nature. So just a great, healthy place to live.
You've mentioned a couple times that you've been in and out of relationships. Like all of us who've experienced love and loss, how has that impacted you as far as teaching you what you truly want or truly deserve out of life?
Yeah, it's interesting to look back on because I have had positive relationships. The breakups, of course, have happened, which are not necessarily positive, but I try to learn from them. I have nothing to say about my nothing bad to say about my past lovers. They've all taught me amazing things and amazing humans. And I feel really fortunate to be really honest with you to have had the relationships that I've had. Yeah, they've definitely taught me. I feel like it's made me a more compassionate person, right? Like really, like they say, like you have to kind of experience sadness to know
Mhm.
happiness. You have to kind of go through some stuff. And so I try to remind myself, and I think you reminded me of that as well, that sometimes you go through things for reasons so that you can help other people with their experience. And I try to just remember if that wasn't for me, then there's something better for me out there. And I've really gotten good at learning to love myself. So I know that's kind of a crazy concept that they say, but learning how to be alone, and just enjoying that and enjoying, I call it my staycations when I'm at home by myself, working and doing stuff for me. It's not easy. And I really feel like a lot of the people I even coach have not learned that, right? If they've been in a long-term relationships, they're not really comfortable being alone. So trying to work with them on that and like who are you, what do you want, and how
Mhm.
can your spouse support you or your significant other support you versus you feel like you can have your together goals but have separate goals as well. So I feel like that would probably be where it's helped me the most. Just being a normal human, right? I don't have it all figured out. I tell the people I coach, I wish I had it all figured out, but then, that wouldn't be any fun either. So I learned just as much from the people I coach as hopefully they learn from me. I'm open and try to really be a great listener and helpful. So I would say that's probably how it's helped me the most.
I think it's similar to the people that I coach as well. We are sometimes lost in our identity of who we're around, and we give so much of ourself to other people that we lose who we are as a person. And trying to bring them back, to center, to figure out, to actually help them realize it's not two halves coming together to make a whole, because then you still have two half people. It's two wholes coming together to make a better whole. Then you have two whole people, right? And if you're just a half a person, well, people always used to say, oh, marriage or relationships are 50-50. And I say bullshit. Like they're 100-100. Because what if I don't like the 50 you're given?
Right.
You
It's
know?
not, yeah,
You got to be 100% whole in order to give 100% to somebody else. And, finding who you are and being comfortable in that, then you can be alone, but you're not lonely. And there's a difference, you know?
huge. I'm still learning that. And that's been an interesting recent kind of thing that I'm experiencing. And how do you do that? I'm surrounded by so much love and support, and I'm so grateful for all the people that I have in my corner. But love's not easy. Relationships aren't easy. It's tough, and it's tough to figure out. And communication, I know my last experience, we had lots of communication issues, and we both considered ourselves communication experts, and so we would be like, why are we not figuring this out? So
Right.
kind of banging our heads against the wall, and we're still having those conversations like, how could we not figure this out? But that's just sometimes things aren't meant to be. So I still believe in love and love and have that romantic inclination, of course. And I really feel like that hope is something that we need as humans, whether it's in love or whether that's in life, whether that's in our careers, whatever that it is. When we lose hope, I feel like we lose a lot. And so
Mhm.
hope is kind of a key. And I feel like that's one of my gifts. I'm hopeful for myself. I'm hopeful for other people. I try to instill that, kind of like give them that shot of hope every time I'm with coaching people or with people, because I feel like that's one of the things as humans that we need, and we forget. We get in our day to day and we just function and do, and we're not aware of what we're doing, how we're doing it, and we kind of just get in this box.
I think a key to the good communication is being a good listener and working abroad. You've developed those skills, but oftentimes when we're trying to communicate with other people, we're communicating through our filter of our hurt, our trauma, our pain, our experiences, our resolution, our whoever did that, so it's going to happen again, and we don't listen to what the other person. We're listening only to respond. We're not listening to hear. And then we have that miscommunication. And you also, I think, you start to, you talked about love languages. We, and I see this during holidays or birthdays or Christmas, like people will give a gift to somebody because they like the gift and they think the other person will love it. And the other person opens it up and goes, oh, thank you. Right. Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah, because we didn't listen to what they like and we didn't buy them what they like. We bought them what we like. And I think that's the same in relationships. We say the things that we want to hear instead of talking their language of what actually helps them to understand. And I think a lot of the communication comes down to that active listening and stepping aside from your ego, because not everything is about us. Even when they're directing it at us, it's not about us. It's about that filter that they just shoved it through.
Yeah.
So we have to step that ego aside and listen. Oh, you're really talking about this, not that. And I think that not enough of us have learned to do that very well yet. I think we're still all actively trying to do that.
Me included, for sure. I'm always working on that. I think that's one of the key pieces. I feel like people will say to me, I could sit at a bar next to somebody for an hour and I will know everything about their life, and they will think they know me really well. But if you actually ask them, like, what's tell me something about Kelly, they'd be like, oh, she's great, right? And so I
Yeah.
love that. That's just who I am. That's my spirit, is to like learn about other people, hopefully ask questions. My goal is to make people think, and really whether I'm sitting next to them at a bar or on an airplane or whatever that it is, hopefully they walk away better because of it. I think not having the answers in mind is a key as a coach, right? Like, I don't, it's funny because people will be like, well, what do you think? Well, I don't know. We haven't really talked about it yet. Let's talk through it and then I'll tell you, but it's your world. I want to know what you think. That's what matters, right? It's not
Right.
what I can tell you what I think, but it doesn't really matter. It's about you and your life. So I'm continually working on that for sure, but I do love it. I love the challenge of it. I love trying to get better at it. And it's just kind of a fun part of life to learn that communication skill. Definitely haven't mastered it. My last relationship taught me that. So
And so how are you transforming all of that into your new position, your new job, because you've transitioned into something new again? So how is that fitting into your new world?
yeah, so it absolutely fits into my new world. So I feel super fortunate. So my life, I'll just kind of back up my life, kind of my entrepreneurial career, my past business connection, past life connection connected me with a company to be their dream manager. And so that's what my career is now. That's what my actual title is. It's a great joke, like, what do you do? I'm a dream manager. So no, I don't interpret your dreams. I help you achieve them. So really what that means is I'm basically like an in-house life coach, employee performance coach, helping our employees be better outside the work environment so that they're better employees inside the work environment and just think through their lives more. So lots of things that helps with really from a corporate perspective, it helps with employee retention and employee engagement. So I'm actually under HR, as you can imagine. I work more with operations though. It's really thinking through not just the employees themselves, but what are some trends and what are some things that I'm hearing, how can we make some changes, right? Like, hey, I'm noticing this manager, his employees are a little bit having more issues. Maybe we need to look at this manager. Or, hey, here's something I'm hearing for a lot of employees. Let's look at the PTO. What do we got going on there? And we need to make sure we're giving them the time off that they need to refuel and re-energize. So my goal is to be an asset to leadership and then be an asset to the employees as well, and hopefully look for some trends. I think that piece of it, my entrepreneurial consulting background has helped me to be that asset to leadership, right? I could say, hey, I'm seeing some stuff here, whether it's a person or whether it's trends and policies that need to change. So it's not just the coaching piece that there's value in. So got that role with a national company back a couple years ago. So loved it, and then was recruited away to do another launch with another company and couldn't be happier with my choice. So have got to be in home services, which is really interesting. So that's where I've spent this dream manager role in home services. It's interesting field because these are guys that are blue collar guys, not in people's homes, knocking on people's doors to provide a service. And so a lot of them have a really diverse background. Some of them, have been millionaires before. Some of them have college educations and have had these careers, but maybe due to hardship or maybe just due to life choices, they like to work with their hands and want to do something different, have some more independence in their life. And there is great money in it for them as well if they're successful at it. And then there's been other people that have had lives where they've had drugs in their life or had, these really heartfelt experiences with family or hardships, sick family members they've had to take care of and had to reevaluate their life and their career. So I've kind of got the whole gamut of, and I work with our leaders as well. And so it's really interesting to coach that kind of people that haven't been taught this stuff, right? Some of them haven't ever been taught budgeting, right? How do you budget? Well, let's start there, because your dreams, if you want to make your goals happen, typically have a financial aspect. And so we
Mhm.
really need to look at our budgeting and our finances and thinking through our future to make some of those things happen. So kind of that's the role that I'm in now, and how I help our employees. And so all those kind of pieces and have helped out with those roles. I guess if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. And I'm also curious as you're talking about that, I'm thinking of, managers in general and some of the managers that I've worked with. Some of them have a pretty big ego. I used to work for, decades ago, I worked for Sperry Univac. They used to build computers when, computers were large.
Whole room.
Uh, yeah, the whole room, right? And on the line, on the assembly line, like we'd get the blueprints and the kit, and then we would assemble, the inner workings of the inner computer, And on the line, we would figure out ways that were faster and easier to do than what the blueprint or the directions, said. So when we would bring that to management so that everyone could do it easier, not just, those of us that were, tinkering, um, management oftentimes would say, no, we've done it that way all the time. That's how we're going to still do it. Like, so in your role, how do you deal with those egos that don't want to step aside?
Well, I'm pretty fortunate on all honesty. Like management's changed a lot over time, right? Like I think current managers are more open. They really seem to be more open to employee feedback, what's going on. I think part of it is like let's be real. I've gained a lot of respect in the organizations that I've worked in, and so usually when I have something to say, it's not just hey, you should do this for no reason. It's because I've heard it from a few people. Of course, my conversations with the people I coach are confidential, even the managers. So usually I've got a bit of information to bring up something. And so there's typically a reason to listen. Yes, there's egos involved. But the reality is there's lots of things I don't know. And I try to remember that. Like they're working on things I don't know as well. And there's a background of things I don't know. So I bring them things and let them decide what to do with it, right? Here's what I would do. Here's some suggestions, just some options. Maybe the timing's not right to implement some things. Maybe there's a whole background that I just can't know. And so my job is to kind of insert myself, share, and if they choose to do something with it, do something with it. I really feel like most people are doing the best that they can, like really. And I just try to remember that if they're not implementing something or just not getting it right, it's because they probably aren't aware of it or don't know how. And so hopefully the awareness helps to try to start working on things. But I don't get a lot of pushback a lot of times. Again, it might just be my approach. I'm not like, hey, you need to do this and change this. Like,
Right.
here's some thoughts and ideas. This might make you better. This might make the situation better. I don't really know. Maybe you can enlighten me and I can help you out with it or give you better insights. But I really don't see that much, believe it or not. So I think it's in most managers' best interest to try to think about what's best for their employees. And I think they really want to and try. And I think when they're not, it's just because they're busy and overwhelmed and don't feel like they can make changes or impact. So it's something going on in their own world that they
Yeah.
don't feel like they could do it. It's more personal than it is professional because they want to help, I think.
But I think you said something that's key that bleeds over into the personal relationships as well. It's how we approach um, our partner or our mate or whoever, hey, have you considered this? Or, I was thinking about this. Do you think it might be a good idea? Like, as opposed to you should, like, because we start shooting all over ourselves and it gets really bad. But
Yeah.
I like the approach, I've been considering this. Have you ever thought of this? Or maybe try, how does this work in your world? So I like that that can be taken out of the corporate world into the um, partnership world as or communication as well.
Yeah, I'm still working on that partnership thing though. So I'll keep, I got the corporate stuff figured out, again, I think it's not having the answers when you talk to people, just like saying, hey, I don't know, I don't have the answers, but here's some thoughts and ideas. And so I try to just be open-minded about it. So
Well, you've indicated that you're going to stay in Arizona, even one day living carefree, not just around carefree. I think you just like the name because it describes your personality, kind of
absolutely.
carefree.
Shouldn't it? Here's one of the things, Daryl, I want to bring up. This is something I remind people every single session, and I think, have fun. Like, I don't think people are having fun. Like, remind them, have fun in your job. Go home and, kiss your wife, dance with her in the kitchen, go
Hmm.
be silly. We're not having enough fun in our lives. And I don't mean we need to go blow money and go out to the casino, have fun. I
Yeah.
mean, just be silly, be more lighthearted. When you interview people that look back on life, that's the things that they say. It's the little moments, it's the little things, it's the little things. We're so in our head and stressed and focused and this and this. It's like stop and just have some fun. It doesn't take a lot to remind us to just like have a little fun in there, like call a friend, laugh, who cares, laugh at yourself. oh my gosh, I spilled like so much stuff in my kitchen the other day by this really dumb mistake. And I seriously, all by myself, just sat back and cracked up laughing. I'm like, what an idiot, you know? So
Yeah.
it's little things like that, just reminding us, be silly, have a good time. This life is short. It's over in a
Mhm.
blink of an eye. I've got someone I was talking to this morning that's going through some stress. I'm like, this will be gone and done, and make sure you're living that life that you want to live because it's so fast. So just that
Yeah.
reminder.
My wife and I are going on our 10 years. We're stepping into 10. And even though a lot of it's been tumultuous because of her health,
Yeah,
it's still gone by relatively quick because we do try to have fun. There are times where we will just dance in the kitchen, or there's not even music playing, and she'll be like, will you dance with me? And we'll just sway to our own thought in our head, right? Or we joke and poke, and we just try to keep the lighthearted fun. And I think that's why even in the trials and tribulations we've had because of our health, that it's gone quickly and joyfully. There are times where I will be driving somewhere and I'll just look over, and joy will just wash over my entire being, just simply because she's there. And I think that is a key, having fun even in the stress, even in the hard times, still find the joyful moments for sure.
absolutely.
um
It's the same result, right? So, like, the more you can have joy through that process, the better than having stress and worry. And I like to think it's got physical effects on us as well, right?
yeah.
Like, I'm doing a ton of research on physical effects of, everything that we do in our lives. And I like to, they say, our headspace on how we're doing things makes a difference. How we work out and how we look at our workouts and how we look at our sleep patterns and how we look at all of these things in our lives helps us to do a better job at them or not, or get the results that we want. So it's really interesting. I think that's a part of it. So you get the same result. Why not have some fun and joy as much as you can, even through those awful things that you have been through? It's great that you could find that because that's not easy. And I think it's a great reminder.
And I think if you, as you're talking about the headspace and how things affect our body, if you look at a person's car, closet, and living room, you can kind of tell where their headspace is. Because if that's in chaos, they don't care enough to keep that tidy. Now, I'm not talking about, spotless to where it looks like a museum lived in, but not cluttered, you know.
Yeah.
And it's funny, even if you just do that, like the spring cleaning, how much better you feel the next couple days because suddenly things around you are refreshed and you kind of feel that energy that comes off with it. So I think
Yeah, they
it's
say
an
that our
important.
stuff brings energy, and so it's like trying to have it how it needs to be. And if there's something that you notice that you're like, "Ew, I don't like that," get rid of it, right? Like, get rid
Mhm,
of it if you don't like it. I had this picture I got for free, right? Like, how you get stuff on like Facebook,
mhm.
and I kept looking at it. I'm like, I hate that picture. I'm like, I this morning I actually put it in my garage. I'm like, why do I keep this picture that I don't like?
That's
So
funny.
it is.
When you're
It's
talking about communications, I had a client once. She was wondering why she couldn't get in these new relationships, right? And through the process, we discovered she had a picture of her ex under the mattress, under the bed. Like, okay,
scary.
that's energetically
It is.
distracting you from everything else. And we removed that with some other things, and within 3 months, she had a new, healthier relationship. Like, it is those tiny little things that are energized in our world. We don't even think about or give thought to.
Yeah.
And once we declutter it or move it, the energy flows, and more of that positive comes back. But mindfulness, I think people just, you know, the people who just punch the clock and skate through the day, it's kind of a waste of a life, in my opinion. Like,
Yeah.
be mindful and joyful in what you're doing. And
It's hard for a lot of people to do that though, Daryl. You know what I mean? And they forget that. I think we get wrapped up in life, we become adults, we get stressed out, and we're doing what we think we're supposed to do. And then all of a sudden, we're like, oh wait, this isn't what it was supposed to be, you know. And a lot of the people I work with, that's what we start with. It's like, oh wow, okay, I need a life reset, you know. And it's like, stop and get aware of what you want to do. You want to do these things 5 years ago. Why'd you let them go? Let's get back
Mhm.
to it. Let's not dig into the
I
why.
like that your parents gave you that freedom to just explore and go, right? It reminds me of you're from the Midwest, so do you know who Joe Mauer is from the Minnesota Twins? He was a catcher back in the 90s or early 2000s. Anyway, he's now going to be a Hall of Fame player, but when he was younger, he tells a story. He and his brothers were wrestling on the yard on the grass, right? And his mom was yelling out the door, "Hey, get off the grass! You know, you're gonna hurt the grass." And his dad said to his mom, "Are we raising boys or are we raising grass?"
That's great.
You know,
It's
just
so true. Yeah.
let them find that joy still, right?
You have to. My brother and my sister have done an amazing job. I don't have children myself, and so I find joy in how they've parented and being an auntie, and they've done an amazing job of raising their kids in that matter, and just kind of, well, you got to let them figure it out, right? They're going to make mistakes and go play and go enjoy, and they've had broken bones, and that's kind of part of life and learning. So hopefully, we've got to make those mistakes at some point, right? So like if we make them as kids, hopefully
Hmm.
it's easier to recover from versus in college or later on in life.
Right. Yeah, one of the greatest gifts my dad ever gave me was the ability to leave home. He always saw it as his job to make us adults that could stand on our own and not be, needing to be tied to, the house. And I grew up in Iowa, so Midwest boy, um, town of 7,000, and I had a chance to move to Florida to take a job right out of high school, and I was a little scared about it because going from a town of 7,000 to a bigger Florida city, and he sat down and he said, "Home will always be here, and if you ever really need, home is only a plane ticket away." So go live your life and never be afraid to explore. And I feel that was the greatest gift that he could give me, other than the unconditional love. But it was an amazing sense of freedom to be able to just pick up and live life, knowing that if I ever truly needed, home was still there. So I feel you got that from your family too, and I think it's so
Choices,
awesome.
right? Like independence and choices. And I think that really helps us not to feel like victims, right? Like this was made for me and this is what I had to do, right? I think a lot of times in life, that's what I see in people, and they're like, "Well, I had to do this." Okay, well, I get that, and a lot of people do have choices that they can't control, right? Like that does happen, of course. But I think that is a huge gift that we could give to people, and even the people that we manage, right? Like, hey, here is the situation. This is what you're doing. You could choose to be different about it, and that's your choice. So
Hmm.
I think that's a key part of coaching as well, right? It's all about choices. It's not, these are not my choices, these are yours. So, and bringing that
Yeah.
up, reminding people of that, that they're not victims and they're not stuck. A lot of times people will say to me, "You're so lucky. You're lucky you get to travel." I'm like, "Well, I wouldn't call it luck." Like I've kind of planned that. I've like done a lot of work to get there. Like
Yeah.
the life I built, you know, I get that I'm lucky and I'm grateful. I understand that, but I want to change people's mindsets around that a lot when they say, "Oh, they're so lucky." I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
they probably made choices, whether that was 10 years ago or now or whatever, to help them get to where that they are. So I think even like with financial disparities and different income levels and people, that's a lot of what I see and kind of hear from people is that mindset of, oh, well, they're just lucky. No, they probably worked really hard for that, you know, and
Yeah.
everybody had parents that just gave them money. A lot of people worked really hard to get where they are, and I have a lot of respect for that. So
Yeah, people
that's
see
kind
the
of
results, they don't see the work that went into the results,
that's exactly
and people want the results, but oftentimes they don't want to do the work for the results. When I was teaching at the community college, I was teaching small business entrepreneurship, and one of the things that I'd have to teach these people that are wanting to be transitioning from the business, employee mindset to an entrepreneurial mindset, the four-letter word you still hate is there. It's called work.
And more actually, because
And more, right?
so
Yeah. Well, I would tell them, I'd say like, if you were giving the same effort for an employee that you're giving for yourself, would you fire yourself? Like you still have to go do the work, and people don't want
absolutely.
to see that grind part. They want to see the result part, So
I challenge people all the time. They're like, "Oh, I want to go do my own thing. I want to be an entrepreneur." And I'm like, I really want you to think about that because it takes a lot and it takes a lot of
mhm.
self-motivation. It takes a lot of it's work. It's hours and hours and it takes focus. And I think there's a lot of things that I learned that I didn't really realize I learned at a young age as an entrepreneur. But now when people like say, "Oh, I'm going to go do my own thing," I'm like, let's have a conversation. And it's my goal isn't to talk you out of it, but it's really to make you think about that choice because
Yeah.
you could do this as a hobby and maybe, make some great side income doing whatever it is that you're wanting to do. But to do it as a career, you really have got to be serious and realize the work that it's going to take to do that.
And you also want to be really careful not to turn the hobby that brings you joy into the business that brings you hatred. Because if you start hating what you just found joy in, you're
Right.
never going to do it again.
Right.
And it's, definitely a conversation that all people wanting to start their own business should consider for sure. You
Grass
know,
isn't greener on the other side too. Like that's another like concept that everyone sees this shiny, beautiful, and like let's get real, right? So
yeah,
everyone thinks, again, it's kind of like that quick fix, that diet drug that I
yeah.
did really good for 3 days. Now, why is the weight not off? Why is, where's the quick fix? Where's the financial? What can I invest in to get rich overnight? It's really, that's not how it works. It takes lots of time and habits and the commitment, no matter what you're doing to see those results.
I have coaches typically have coaches, and I have a coach, and he talks about um 3 years, or excuse me, he says 3 months to build it and 3 years till your freedom. So the 3 months to do your foundational work, and then 3 years till you see the fruits of that labor, right? So he never talks about the quick fix at all. He talks about you got to dedicate and then water.
Yeah.
you know
It makes sense. I think it depends on who you are, what you're putting energy into, the time that you put into it, all the type of business that it is. There's so many other pieces to that. But yeah, it's not an overnight thing. Nothing is.
Yeah, the fruit is always the last thing picked from the tree.
Yeah.
So
I've been challenged
what's
with like shortening my program because it's a year-long program for participants. And I am always like, no, that's not going to work because people need time to change, right? We kind of say we want to do things, start to do things, mess it up, need to try to do things again, get off track over the holidays, need to get back to it. It takes a year for us to figure things out and go, okay, I do want to make changes and this is what I'm going to do.
so what's 2024 look like for Kelly?
Professionally, I'm super excited. I'm launching, we've got 6 different companies that I work with. And so I'm launching into more new companies. So super excited to bring the program, the Dream Manager program to more of our employees. So really excited about that. It's a lot of fun. I've been working on materials redesign. So really looking through the content that I'm giving to people. I'm always looking on how to do a better job at that. So working on that. Personally, I'm taking my mom on a Mediterranean cruise, which is a dream of mine, super excited about. So I'm gonna go do a girls mom-daughter trip. So excited about that. Probably do a solo trip. I haven't figured it out yet. I'm still working through. I've got my dates planned, but not the actual trip planned. It hasn't come to me yet. Like I need to settle on that. So I'll do another trip. I really just need to, my goal is to get in the best shape of my life. And that was my goal last year, got a little off track, right? So year before that kind of had something similar, so this is the year. So I've
But
learned how to do it.
you hike across countries, you bike everywhere, you run, races. You're pretty outgoing and energetic and out there. I don't see any reason why those goals aren't going to, come to fruition for sure. Of all the places you've traveled, where's your favorite?
It's a tough question. They're all favorites for different reasons. I was in different life phases with different people with different experiences in each one. So they're all favorites for different reasons. I will tell you one of my favorite countries to go back to again and again. Well, two. One is Switzerland. It's gorgeous. It's amazing. Transportation's perfect. People are nice. A little on the expensive side, but just I swear you could just look anywhere, travel anywhere, and it's just gorgeous. And I've hiked all over those mountains. Second of all, I've spent a lot of time in Spain. I used to have a client that did the running of the bulls in Pamplona. So it's been a lot of time there, probably almost a year of my life in Spain overall, hiking and working and hanging out with that client and doing work for them. So I love Spain, Spanish culture, Spanish food, everything about it. But there's so much of the world I want to see. There's not enough time, right? And I finally just had that realization this year. I'm like, wait a second, I may not make it to Japan, right? Like I've got all these other things that are on my list first, and so I might not make it to some of these places. I got to start prioritizing. So it's sad, but it's also very real.
Well, you've been an amazing person since I've known you. I absolutely adore your spirit and your joy and the just even in the midst of, the chaos of selling your house, you were a pleasure to work with, and you've been a joy and a pleasure ever since. And I'm, very happy to call you a friend. Elsa and I really adore you, and we just wish you the very best for not only 2024, but the lifetime to come. I am going to ask you the one final question that I ask all my guests. What does a warrior spirit or having a warrior spirit mean to Kellie Zimmet?
I would say passion, no matter what you're doing, like you've got to be passionate about, it. You've got to be bought in, you've got to be sold, whether that's the chicken before the egg that you have to do it and then be passionate about it, or be passionate about it and then do it. Life is worth living. So and if you're not going to do it with passion, then maybe start to think about priorities and what's important to you. So that's what I would say. Thank you, Daryl. Thanks to you and Elsa as well. I feel the same about you guys.
Well, we appreciate you and thank you for joining me today and just have a blessed rest of your year.
You too. Thanks, Daryl.
Bye.